Thank you for joining us on GSA Does That, the podcast that uncovers the stories behind the federal agency working every day to deliver a more effective and efficient government. I'm your host, Rob Trubia, and thanks for being here. Today, we're talking about crowdsourcing, but not just any crowdsourcing. We're talking about crowdsourcing a better government. That's right. The 10X initiative by GSA is a testament to the power of collective innovation. Always on the hunt for revolutionary ideas, this program invites suggestions from federal employees on how technology can be a game changer in improving the government's service to the public. But the 10X program isn't just about gathering suggestions, it's about propelling them into action. And joining us today is 10X Communications and Outreach Lead, Will Cahoe. Will knows this program inside and out and has a front row seat into every submission made. We'll ask him how to submit ideas and then just what happens to those ideas once they make the 10X team stand up and take notice. Also joining us is Carey Johnston from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, better known as the EPA. Carey took the initiative and submitted an idea. He's joining us to share his firsthand experience of being a part of this innovative process. Before we jump in, remember this podcast is available on all major platforms, so please be sure to subscribe. For more information about this episode and others, visit us online at gsa.gov/podcast. Gentlemen, thank you both for being on the podcast today. We certainly appreciate your time, and we're so glad you've joined us. Well, we're titling this episode, Crowdsourcing a Better Government. Before we dig in too deep, help us understand just what 10X is and what makes it a crowdsourcing platform.
Definitely. Thanks for the question, Rob, and it's great to be here. Well, the spoiler is right there in the title. We crowdsource ideas from federal employees all across the government on ways that government can use technology better to serve the public. And that's sort of our basic bread and butter. We invest in ideas rather than, technology or systems. And we're all out here fighting the good fight for innovation, trying to ship good for government products and services.
Excellent. What about the 10X name? Where's that come from?
Yes, there's a bit of lore behind this. Not really. It's when we were standing up 10X, we really wanted to learn from the private sector, particularly folks in the venture world, and to incorporate practices that they have into the federal space. And something that a lot of venture folks say is, we're only going to invest in something if we think we can get 10 times the return on investment. So we thought, hey, that's a good goal. Let's try this in government. And so 10 times became 10X, and the rest is history.
I think what's really interesting about this program, it's very, seems more like something you'd find out in industry, you'd see in industry. And I think that's what makes it so intriguing, and that you don't see crowdsourcing happening in the government. And where you're getting your ideas, where do you get your ideas? Where your submissions come from?
Yeah. Every project that 10X has ever invested in start off as ideas that we received from federal employees all across the government. And so the reason that we do this is because we really believe that the people closest to the problem have creative ideas and are making incredible observations, and they know ways that they can do their job better and that way that they can improve how their agencies deliver their missions. So our target is not the CTO level or the CIO level. It's not, regulators. Our target for the ideas that we crowdsource are truly feds, civil servants at every agency from GS1 all the way to SES and everywhere in between. We really want to make this inclusive, and we want everyone across government to be able to have their ideas nominated and to really believe that their ideas can change public service for the better.
And Carey, we've got you on because you had an idea. Tell us a little bit where you learned about 10X. How did you even know this process existed?
Yeah, I found out about the 10X program from one of the GSA email listservs. I subscribed to a couple. I saw the open notice and I thought, this looks interesting. So I pulled together 2 or 3 sentences and made a submission.
And what inspired you to submit your particular idea? Maybe you can share with us a little bit about what that idea was.
Yeah, I work at the Environmental Protection Agency, and I help states and EPA regions, we have 10 regions, convert paper forms to electronic forms. And these are really important for tracking noncompliance. And in particular, we're looking at noncompliance as it relates to sewer spills. So unfortunately, stuff happens and spills, whether it's through a blockage or a broken pipe. And the sewage treatment plants need to report this noncompliance. And for decades, these reports have come in on paper, and we're now converting that over to electronic reporting. And I thought the 10X program could help jumpstart some of our efforts.
Okay, so take us through the process a little bit. That's great that you learned about it. Now you're like, what do you do? How do you submit it? Did you make a phone call, send an email? How does it get going?
Well, it's super easy. So 10X has a form, and you really only need 2 or 3 sentences. They limit you as to the number of actual words or characters that you can use. And so really the first challenge is to boil down your submission to really an elevator pitch and to convey succinctly what you're trying to do and how 10X could help. And then you type in the text and hit submit. It's that simple.
Well, you get these submissions. Do you get them every day? Do you get them once a month? Do you look at them twice a year? When you first saw Carey's submission, how did you see it? How does that work?
Yeah. So we have typically 1 or 2 rounds of project funding and evaluation each year. So that's the current season. Actually, this is our busy season. We are accepting ideas through our website between now and the end of the day on November 30th. And so after the 30th, what we're going to do is a bunch of us, the bigger us of 10X, will all come into DC, and we spend several days reading through these ideas, discussing every single one, grading them, thinking about what could happen if this was a wild success, really looking for potential. We look for ideas that align with our investment themes. We look for ideas from, I shouldn't say from agencies that we haven't worked with, because we do not know who's submitting the ideas. We keep it totally anonymous. But I should say problem spaces that we haven't heard about before, because we're always trying to flex new muscles and look into new corners of the federal tech ecosystem that we don't know about. I should say the evaluation panel, the folks who really decide, who whittle down, say, 200 ideas down to the 10 projects that we're going to fund. It's a rotating group of folks. We really try to bring in fresh perspectives. We really don't want to sort of spin our wheels and just kind of exist within our own assumptions. We brought folks from other agencies. And something else we often do is we bring in a representative from the TTS Diversity Guild. And TTS is the Technology Transformation Services. That's the parent organization of 10X within GSA. And they have a diversity guild. And the diversity guild is essentially a group of folks who are really passionate about making sure that our workforce and that the way that we operate is really fair to everyone and equitable, and that concerns of diversity, equity, and inclusion are really highlighted throughout the organization. And not only that, but throughout the external work that we do as well. So we always say, hey, send us a representative who can really bring that hat, who can really bring that lens to make sure that these ideas that we're evaluating, because we don't have much to go off of, right? Like Carey mentioned, they're about 3 sentences long. So we bring in folks from other agencies, other groups, and it's usually a few days of some, I will say, positive, contentious conversation, because folks have feelings about these projects, and we can only choose so many to fund, and they're all risky at the beginning because we don't know much about them, and we're not experts. We get ideas from the EPA, we get ideas from the Department of Education, and we don't know all the context, so we do the best we can with the short summaries, the ideas that we receive from folks like Carey and all across the government.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because Carey mentioned it, you mentioned it as well. The submission, the initial submission is very short. You limit the amount of characters even. Why do you do that?
We do that because we don't want to turn off the Careys of the federal government. We want the creative civil servants to feel like they actually have a chance to get their ideas read and evaluated. And I think, and what do you think, Rob? The easiest way to turn off the Careys is to say, hey, Carey, you can send an idea to 10X. You need a project proposal. You need a budget. You need a team. You need deliverables. You need a contract in place. You need system requirements up front. Gather all 40 of those pages and documentation, send it over, and we can make a lot happen. I think that is a recipe for failure. And so we really want to keep the barrier for entry as low as we can. And it seems like a simple ask, right? Put an idea in 3 sentences, but it can also be difficult because these are big, meaty ideas and big problems that need solving.
No, I think that answers it well. And then you're talking about, you get 200 ideas maybe, and you get the higher ups in a room in DC, and they're maybe all passionate about, I really like this one. Oh, I really like this one. And you're whittling it down. And is it specifically 10 ideas a year?
It's not specifically 10 ideas a year. It's usually ranges from, say, 10 to 25, kind of depending on the budgetary situation and where other projects are going. And so I should say we have, more than a dozen projects going on at any one time, and we never know how far a project's going to go in the life cycle that our fund operates. So we don't always know how many projects we're going to be able to kickstart each year. So it's typically between 10 and 25.
Okay.
At least at the phase one level. Yep.
And Carey, let me ask you, when did you find out that your idea was going to be acted on? Like, this is one of the ideas we're going to take to the next step.
I think it was a couple of months. It wasn't that long. So as was mentioned, there was an open period. I made this submission and then I just kind of waited.
And so when you were told, hey, Carey, we're looking into your idea, we're serious about it, we're going to take it to phase one, what kind of involvement do you have at that point? Is it just hands off for you, Carey, and then 10X runs with it, or do you become a partner? How does that work?
Yeah, I would say that it was a partnership, and I was very much involved as a subject matter expert, where we kind of expanded on the idea, kind of fleshed it out, co-created the proposal, and really drill down on the what. What are we trying to do? What's before we got to the how, and that was exciting.
That's pretty neat. And I love the fact that you are partnering with them. I mean, you're the expert. You're the one who knows what the big problem is. You've got a lot of ideas for the solutions. You're going to the technical experts and the ones, quite honestly, with the dollars to, make happen what you think could happen that could really make a difference. I'm curious, Will, can you take us a little bit through the funnel, the process? I think it's very specific. One of the things that I think is very interesting about 10X is you really seem to start looking at some of these problems, even once you decide we're gonna really look into this. This is going to be one of them we're accepting this year. Very small dollar amount. Like, you're just going to kind of poke a little bit and see if this thing is real. Are we really going to take this to phase two? Can you take us through the phases of a project?
I sure can. And that's exactly right. The reason we do this, and this again goes back to, how can we bring in private sector practices into government to get better IT delivery for agencies. And one of the lessons that we learned is that not all ideas are going to work out. So don't have all your eggs in one basket. Split up your investments over a series of possible enterprises and test each one a little bit, see if there's a there. And if not, do not be afraid to close them down and to end unpromising projects. And those are lessons that we have really, really taken to heart. So if you want to picture a funnel, I'll sort of lead you through it. We have 4 phases of a 10X project. Phase 1 literally begins, right after Carey sends that message, after Carey sends in the idea and we approve it. It goes from a 3-sentence hypothesis into a phase 1 project. And phase 1 is typically about 2 weeks. And the goal of phase 1 is really just to see, is this a bad idea? Are there reasons why 10X should not be involved? And I should clarify, not that it's a bad idea, but that this may not be a good idea for 10X to invest in as a project, right?
Sure.
So it could be an excellent idea. Maybe it's just not a great fit for 10X. So things that we're looking for here, what is going to suggest it's a bad idea for this project to continue? One is that we're going to interview all the subject matter experts and none of them say this is a problem. They're like, okay, sure, if you want to build another widget, great. That's not a problem that I need to be solved. Maybe an action has... a theory has been pursued in the past for 10 different times, and it's always failed for the same reason. Maybe there is a regulatory hurdle in place that unless we can get that lifted, there is no way that this can be successful. Any number of basically big red flags that say this isn't going to be a promising investment. And at the end of those, 2 weeks, at the end of this phase 1, the project team, who are internal to 10X, they're cross-functional technologists, researchers, designers, engineers, etc. At the end of those 2 weeks, they come back to 10X and they basically say, here's what we found. And either we recommend moving forward. There's enough here that we think this could be impactful, and we recommend that 10X moves this into the next phase. Or they say, you know what? We did a quick glance and it feels like maybe there are more promising projects. It feels like maybe this isn't something that's going to be successful. And we recommend closing it down here. And the reason we do that is because we want to close down unpromising projects as soon as we can. And something else to highlight here is most projects get a no in between these phases. Only about a third of projects are approved at any one phase. So if we're going to start off, you're going to see how bad I am at math here, but if we start off the year with 20 projects in phase 1, Only 7 of those are going to move on to phase 2. Only 2 of those are going to move on to phase 3, and we might only have 1 phase 4 project for that whole year. Taking us back to the other part of the funnel, let me know if you're with me here. Phase 2 is a little bit longer, and each of these levels gets a little bit longer, a little higher dollar amount, a little more time, a little more focus, a little more attention from 10X. And in phase 2, the idea is, okay, so it's not a bad idea for us to be involved here, but is it really a good idea? Can we imagine a path to success? Do we have people who are excited to maybe work with us? Do we have we identified the carries? Have we identified the champions within agencies who are going to help us make room for a new solution? Same process at the end of phase 2. The team comes back and makes a recommendation. And for the sake of this conversation, we'll say that it's a yes, and we decide to move the project into phase 3. This is the development phase. This is when we bring on the heavy-duty engineering. And really the goal of phase 3 is to say at the end of it, are we solving a problem for someone? Are we solving a problem for someone? Is anyone going to use this? In the same process, if this is a solution that looks like it could scale widely, that it looks like it could continue to thrive and solve more problems for more users outside of 10X, then we can move into phase 4, which is the scale phase. And there, the goal really is to get something alive and thriving and with a home that makes sense post 10X. What I want to highlight here is that we at 10X are not in the business of long-term software ownership and maintenance. We don't want to own the platforms that we build. We are not territorial with our investments. We want the things we build to live and thrive, and we will advocate for the work that we fund to continue wherever makes the most sense. For example, EPA. That's a great example.
So your whole group's really acting like it's got a giant investment portfolio, and we're trying to figure out where to put our investments, and we're gonna test them. And if they don't turn out to be the best value for our dollar, then you kind of shut it down.
That's exactly right. Quick validation, close down unpromising projects, save money for the big home runs.
So, Carey, how many phases did you get through?
Feels like a quiz. No, so I submitted my idea. We'll call it step 0. I was selected for phase 1, and then that's where we refined the ideas and the what, and then moved to phase 2, where we spent, I want to say like 6 months or more, really working with the 10X staff, coming up with really something that really worked for EPA. And what I mean is, at the end of phase 2, even though I didn't go to phase 3, we, EPA, got something out of the project, out of the 10X process. So it's, I wouldn't say, a success is going through all 4 phases. Success is coming out of the 10X process with something that you could work from. And that's exactly what we got at EPA.
So it's really a little bit of the experience. And then it also sounds like all the things that you have to do to go through phase 1 and phase 2 and the partnership. Maybe you're starting to develop some of your own solutions and be able to, did EPA take it, even though it didn't go past phase 2, did EPA take some of that knowledge, some of that investigation, some of the problem solving, and be able to use that to its advantage?
Yes, definitely. We were able to take the deliverables from the 10X process. In particular, we were looking at how best to display and visualize and explore the sewer spill data for the public, and we're using the wireframes and the website design ideas that came out of the 10X process to jumpstart our own website development through our platform called Echo, and that's echo.epa.gov.
Great plug. Perfect. So just going through those phases really helped your team to develop solutions. And I think it doesn't sound like you're discouraged. I mean, you didn't get to phase 3, but it doesn't sound like you were discouraged. You're glad you made your submission.
Oh, very glad. And I think we got a lot out of the independent and helpful nature of the 10X team. And we also, as I said, got deliverables, the project, the website design and wireframe ideas that helped jumpstart our work. And it was a very positive experience.
So Will, let me ask you, so yes, Carey only went to phase 2, but I want to say only because it sounds like a lot of benefit from even going that far. Can you share with us a project that went to phase 3 or 4? What are some examples of some ideas that civil servants have submitted? 10X has jumped on them and took them all the way through phase 4, maybe one or two that said, and then we can feel the impact that, we've really improved delivery services for our public. We've made a better engagement with the public for the government because of 10X. What are some success stories?
I'll start with maybe one of the original success stories here. So I'll take us back to, when was this? Maybe 2015, 2016, at a very early iteration of 10X, where the pitching did not happen over via a submission form to our website. It happened in person. Back then, it was sort of modeled after, some of those television shows where entrepreneurs pitch ideas in front of investors. That's kind of how we did it. And one day during one of these sessions, we had a civil servant walk into the room, and she had a stack of papers, and she taped all of the papers up on the walls of the room and asked the evaluation panel, "What do you notice?" And what they were printed screenshots of all different kinds of government websites. And what everyone noticed is that there was not particular consistency across a large ranges of fields, right? So some of these websites looked like, maybe they are from the mid-90s. Some looked like they were modern and fresh and were sort of a product of good agile processes. Some looked like they were very secure and trustworthy. Some looked like they would, break your mother's back if you stepped on it. And some looked like they were written in plain English. And some looked like they were designed exclusively for lawyers or policy folks to actually understand the acronyms and the other things. And so her idea was, this could cause harm. This sort of disjumbled kind of inconsistent approach could be bad, say, for someone who has an intellectual disability, trying to find some kind of government service, having to navigate potentially different government websites and different applications and all kinds of different things. What if you're a newcomer to the United States and English isn't your first language? And how are you ever going to successfully interact with something that, is written as if it's like a court document or a regulation? And the idea that this person had was, can we just provide some kind of shared tools, shared modern resources for federal web managers all across the government to use how they see fit, right? All the web managers, they know the programs they work for, they know the websites, they know their audiences. So we're going to sort of decentralize. We're going to make the resources and the tools, operate them centrally, but everyone else is going to be able to use them however they need. And what this project turned into is the U.S. web design system. And that went through all 4 phases of 10X. And that's a success, I think, because it continues to evolve and deliver value.
I love that. And let me ask you this, Will. Are you accepting ideas from our civil servants? Any idea, or is there like a theme each year? What are you trying to do? Just share with us a little bit about how you kind of couch those. There's subject matters, experts in each different ideas. How does it work?
Sure. So we do choose investment themes each year. And I should say that aligning an idea, if you're a federal employee thinking, oh, this 10X thing it's kind of cool. Will's convinced me that maybe this is worth my time. So you don't have to align with one of our investment priorities. Any idea that you have, you can submit. We will read it and evaluate it. But this year in particular, we're building on some emerging themes that we've had over the past couple of years. So one of our priority themes this year is equity in delivery. And really what that means is we are looking for ideas for how the federal government can use technology in a way that's going to right a wrong, or a way that's going to bring a little more fairness and equity to public service. The second investment theme we have is reimagining public engagement. The reason we chose this theme is because, and this speaks to how 10X has changed over the years. So 10X is funded out of the Federal Citizen Services Fund. And for a few years, we were very open and enthusiastic about doing projects that were more sort of back-end focused, that were less visual, that were more for agencies. And then something that was pointed out to us along the way is, don't forget the C, don't forget the citizen in the Federal Citizen Services Fund. And we were encouraged to really look at public-facing technology and things that the public will use or directly benefit from. And so we kind of ran with that. And ever since then, we're developing a portfolio of projects that really try to help folks, help the government reimagine what it means to interact with the public. And one example I'll give there, this is another success story I would say for 10X. A project that went through phase 4 is notify.gov, which is a new product offering of GSA. And the idea there is to empower federal agencies to notify their constituents of, hey, your application is partway through, or hey, there's a sewer spill in your area, or any number of things. So a way that the government and the public can interact that's modern, and that's not going in person somewhere, not dealing with a really user unfriendly kind of digital experience. So those are the types of ideas. I hope I didn't over explain that, but basically projects that are public facing and that have equity as a very founding principle.
I read you're looking for moonshot ideas. It's sort of like that second theme potentially, or maybe you're always looking for moonshot ideas. What's a moonshot idea? Can you give us an example of a moonshot idea, even it never made it to phase 1? I'm curious about some of the submissions you get.
Totally. And thank you so much. That is something that I forgot to mention, which is, and for all you feds out there listening in, we want your moonshot ideas. Like take us to the moon. Let's solve the hardest problems in government. Let's seize the biggest opportunities. Let's make that future that we want to imagine really happen. So I'm just going to I'm going to take my own advice, and I'm just going to kind of throw some moonshot ideas out there, Rob. And these are not necessarily ones that we have received. Let's imagine a world where exchanging data between agencies, it's not Excel sheets anymore. No more email attachments. Done. Something completely different. That idea is animating a project that we currently have going called deploying privacy enhancing technology. And basically the idea is, can this field of emerging technologies out in the academic and out in the private sector be used in a way where you can learn from a data set without actually accessing that data at all? And that, if that could scale widely, that is something that could just totally transform how government does data, period. Another moonshot idea, this one also happened, is one account for all. What if I could just have one place where I can access a lot of government services, so I don't have to have 14 accounts on different government websites? And that came out of login.gov, which was also an early 10X investment.
Yeah, you're looking for a lot of ideas, and you've got a deadline coming up November 30th. Carey, what advice or encouragement would you share based on your experience in submitting an idea to 10X?
Yeah, to review the solicitation to see if there are any themes, to really boil down your problem, to really sell it. I mean, I use the phrase elevator pitch, and I think that's the way you got to think. It's not some big, long problem statement. You got to really explain what the problem is and how 10X might be able to help.
Thank you. That's helpful. I think there's a lot of civil servants out there that are listening to this. I hope they take the 5 minutes it takes to submit an idea. Will, here's your chance for a pitch. Remind us again, November 30th, where do they go? How do they submit? This is your opportunity.
All right, feds, listen up. Day or night, you can submit an idea through our website, 10x.gsa.gov. It's only got to be 3 sentences. There's even a fun template on there to sort of help you put your big idea into 1,000 characters. Just hit that submit button. Don't be afraid to reach out. For those of you who are like, oh, this sounds interesting, I'm kind of interested, but where do I go from here? We offer workshops, and these are fun, lightweight. They can be virtual only, 45 to 60 minutes. I'm going to come into your agency and sit with you and your colleagues virtually, and we're going to talk about what you do on a day-to-day basis, and we're going to help figure out what the really big problems and opportunities are that you and your agency can take advantage of and that 10X can help you with. So we're happy to schedule those between now and the end of November. If anyone just wants to learn more, talk more, reach out. Our email is 10x@gsa.gov. Go out and submit ideas, folks. Believe that your idea can make an impact. We have proven that that's the case.
Those civil servants out there, there's no excuse to not put your submission in. Go ahead and give it a shot. You have nothing to lose, and it'll only take you a couple minutes. Carey, thank you for your time. Will, thank you for your time. I hope you both have a great rest of your day. And 10X, check it out. Well, there you have it, my fellow federal employees. You've just learned how to take 3 minutes to submit an idea that just might change the lives of millions of Americans. There's no requirement for supervisor approval, and if your submission moves forward, 10X promises not to add a thing to your to-do list. So be sure to get over to 10x.gsa.gov. You've got nothing to lose. Will Cahoe, Carey Johnston, thank you both for your time. I've really enjoyed this conversation. 10X truly embodies everything GSA is all about. And maybe like me, you had no idea that GSA did that. In our next episode, we'll find out how GSA is supporting tribal nations. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to GSA Does That. And for more information, visit gsa.gov/podcast, or to suggest a topic or guest, send us an email at gsadoesthat@gsa.gov. I'm your host, Rob Trubia. Our executive producer is the one and only Max Stempora. GSA Does That is a production of the U.S. General Services Administration, Office of Strategic Communication. Thanks for listening.